Welcome to Voices of Innovation. I'm Cecilia, founder of the Catalytic site, where I guide scientists as they move from academia into biotech. Join me as I speak with entrepreneurs, researchers, and talent leaders driving innovation and building the companies of tomorrow. If you are considering a career in biotech or simply want to understand the sector from the inside, this is your new favorite place. Welcome to another episode of Voices of Innovation. Today I'm joined by Ignacio Moraga, co-founder and CSO at TECregen, a biotech company based in Basel in Switzerland, working on immunoregeneration and novel approaches to revitalizing the thymus. Ignacio started his scientific journey in Madrid before moving to Paris at the Pasteur Institute for his PhD, followed by a postdoc at Stanford. And he later became an associate professor at the University of Dundee in Scotland, where he built a strong academic track record in protein engineering and cytokine signaling, securing funding from organizations like the ERC and the Wellcome Trust. More recently, he made the transition from academia into entrepreneurship, co-founding TECregen, and helping to raise a seed round of 10 million Swiss francs to advance their work. In this episode, we'll explore together his journey from academia to biotech, what it really takes to build a company around cutting-edge science, and what advice he has for scientists thinking about taking a similar path. Ignacio, thank you so much for joining me today. Let me start by asking you a few questions about your scientific journey. So you work in so many different institutions and countries, Madrid, Pasteur Institute, Stanford, Dundee, now you're in Switzerland. How does different environments shape the way you think about science and maybe also about translating this science into something concrete, let's say?
So hello, really great to be here and be part of this podcast. So I think that it's not very uncommon for scientists, at least scientists in Spain, to start thinking from very early on, okay, where is my career going to take me? So in Spain, it was very common back in my day. It's a little bit less common now, maybe, that you had to do your PhD in Spain, but then you had to do your postdoc somewhere else if you wanted to come back to Spain and get your own independent group. That was sort of the non-written rule that you had to follow. But I've always been interested in knowing new cultures and living in new places. So from the very beginning, I had this idea of, okay, I want to do my PhD outside. How can I do that? Once it got the moment that, okay, I finished my degree, which in Spain back in the day was 5 years. Mm-hmm. It was which lab should I apply and what should I do? And that was in Spain back in the day, and I think it's a bit better now. I found a problem. So if you go to the States and you talk to undergrads that are looking to do a PhD student, they know very well who are the faculties, who are the good faculties, who are the bad faculties, what is the hot themes that can have trajectory in the long run, who they should do a PhD with, and that sort of things. Back when I was at the university, basically you would do a PhD with whoever would take you. So it wasn't in our mind, which is the good lab that is going to give me good publication, that they are going to allow me to compete for postdoc fellowships, to go to another good lab that will give me back the faculty position. And that for me was sort of a steep learning curve. So I started in Madrid in a PhD, because it was very easy for me to find a PhD in Madrid. And after a few months, it was a great environment. The supervisor was great, but the project wasn't advancing. So after a few months, I saw that, okay, this is not going to take me where I want to go. So I started to look for alternatives. And there, my approach again wasn't, let's choose the best lab that fit my expertise or my vision or what I want to do for science. I just knew that I wanted to go abroad. So my approach was, let's go to the ERC website, and then you have these PhD networks, which I don't think that you have them anymore, and you could search the website for every active network and every position that they were advertising. So I applied for everything that was open. Not a very good strategy, but I got few interviews. I went to Munich for a plant science lab to do molecular biology in plants. I'd have few phone interviews and so on and so forth. But at that moment when I was looking, I have a good contact in Madrid, the person that I did the master with, Isabel Merida, and she suggested I contact this guy in the Pasteur Institute. His name is Andres Alcover. He's still there, very good PI, working in T cells. So I reached out to him because he had a Marie Curie PhD network position. But unfortunately, he told me, look, like the position has been closed. We have recruited someone, so we don't have the space for you. But I know of another person here in Pasteur that have an open position and it hasn't been advertised yet. So she just got the position. She hasn't had the time to advertise it. So I reached out to her, so my PhD supervisor, Sandra Pellegrini, and that was through Andres Alcover. So I'm telling this length story just to say to people that networking is really, really important. Building relationships from the very beginning is crucial, more so than anything else that you're going to do, because those relationships are the ones that are going to be opening doors for you in the long run. And you need people opening doors. And there's so many of us, so competitive, so few positions. You need those established people helping you from the beginning. And in my case was my master rotation lab, putting me in contact with someone in Pasteur that then put me in contact with someone else in Pasteur that gave me my first PhD Marie Curie network position. And that was a fantastic position, compared with other PhD students in Pasteur. I was rich. I have a decent salary. I have a lot of perks like computers, going to grants and so on. And it gave me the opportunity to explore what I wanted to do. And my first touch with cytokines. So Sandra Pellegrini was working in type 1 interference, and my PhD was understanding how these ligands engage the receptor and they trigger signaling. And it let me realize, okay, what do I like? I've always been a protein person. I always have liked biochemistry and biophysics, but I couldn't put that into words when I started in the lab. Like, what do really I like? And one day I started in the lab, which was a hardcore signaling Western blot lab. I immediately zoomed into ligand receptor interactions, and I realized that was what I like. I like to understand how cells recognize ligands in their environment and interpret those cues into signaling networks and biological responses. So I spent with Sandra 3.5 years, and that was my Paris stars or my Paris time. I love it. I think Paris is a wonderful place if you're a PhD student. Full of life, really, really expensive. I think even more so now after 20 years. So it's very challenging and with a PhD salary, but the city is amazing. So I really enjoyed my 3 years there. At that time, when I finished my PhD, it was time to look for a postdoc again, because that's the trajectory that people teach you at the university. You do the PhD, and then you do a postdoc, and then you become professor. For those people that are listening to the podcast and are thinking industry, academia, not sure, what should I do, what should I do? If you want to go to industry, do it right after the PhD. I wouldn't recommend doing a postdoc and then doing industry. Your attractiveness, your appealing is going to drop down massively if you have done a postdoc of 3-4 years and then try to go to industry. So if you are at that stage and you are hesitating, don't go to academia. Academia is too hard, too difficult. You really have to be motivated and committed. So if you are having any doubt, just drop academia and try to find an industry job as soon as possible, if you can, right after the PhD. In my case, again, I was into the whole movement or academia, otherwise you're a failure. So I knew that I wanted to do more applied type of science. And I knew that I wanted to have a range of expertise and methodology that if I fail in my search of becoming a professor, it would allow me to enter industry. So I didn't want to have just a general sort of expertise in cellular biology or in Western blotting and signaling or in microscope or things like that. I wanted to have a set of skills that were so sought after from industry. So I thought that crystallography, protein structure, protein engineer was a good set of skills to have. And right when I was doing that, we are talking about 15 years ago, that not only 16, it was 2010. 2009, 2010, I think that protein engineering was up and coming in the pharma world. So I started to think, okay, so which labs do have this expertise? And I have a favorite one. So the lab I went, Chris Garcia at Stanford, I read quite a few of his papers when I was writing my thesis for type 1 interference, and they appeal a lot to me. The range of skills and expertise that Chris's lab can do and is doing, I don't think that there are many labs in the world that can do that. But then you have to have also alternative in case that, he didn't have a position or he didn't like your profile or whatever have you.
Course,
but at that time, I was very aware that if you wanted to be a professor, you needed to have an HR paper or a cell paper or a science paper. That was very obvious to me after the PhD because I was seeing around. So at that time, I said, okay, I want to go to Chris's lab because it's the lab I like. But in case I don't manage to go to his lab, I want to go to a lab that also publishes in high-profile journals, so I have a chance to become a professor. And then I did my search based on things that I sort of like, but also in labs that have published in high-profile journals. So I interviewed with a few labs at Stanford when I went there. But lucky for me, at the end, I managed to go to Chris's lab, and I spent there 5.5 years. So it was a long postdoc. I think that was a very successful postdoc. I was a long postdoc. And after that, it was this point of, do I go to industry or do I go to academia? We are from Europe. My wife is from Serbia. I'm from Spain. So we wanted to be closer to the family. So Europe was better than the States. I tried to apply to a couple of industry jobs while I was in Stanford, but it was very difficult for me to get interview. Actually, I didn't get anything. I didn't get any reply. So at that point, again, I was already committing to the academia path, and it was much easier for me to get interviews in tenure track positions in Europe than trying to find an industry job. So I went to a couple of conferences at the time, and I applied for a few positions. And here's another advice for the young people, at least from my personal experience. So I did two interviews, one in Oxford and one in Dundee. And those two, again, came from networking, didn't come from me applying for open job positions. So the Dundee one is because I met Doreen Cantrell in a meeting in Colorado, and she told me that they were looking for faculty. And the Oxford is because while I was in Pasteur, this guy, Oreste Acuto, was very good friend with my PhD supervisor. So I reached out to him, and he put me in contact with someone in the Kennedy Institute to get the interview. So I got those two interviews. I applied to another 3 or 4 positions on top of the 2 that I got. Never got a call from those ones. So the problem when you apply to open position is that everybody's, if it's a nature job, everybody in the whole world is seeing those positions. So you are getting thousands of applications. And it's very difficult to come on top of those thousands because there are people that have internal network with the people that are actually offering the job. And everybody, that is applying for those positions have a cell paper or a nature paper. So it becomes really, really challenging. So if you want to go the academia path, again, try to establish networks, send cold emails, and ask for, no interview, but for chats and coffee or whatever with departments or places where you think you would be a good fit and you would like to go before they have the open position. Because once they have the open position, if they don't know you, it's very challenging and very difficult. So for me, at the end, I thought Dundee was a very good fit for me, based in the science and based in the city. I like it a lot. So we decided to go there. My wife did her PhD in Edinburgh, in Scotland. So she knew the area, she liked it. So we said, okay, let's go to Scotland. And we spent there 6 years. And we liked it a lot. The life was good, the science was great, the department people were fantastic. But after 6 years, you have to start again, try to find money to continue doing your work, the shift in research, focusing UK chain, and it wasn't so much aligned with my line of research I was doing in Dundee. So it became difficult to secure enough funding to keep a good lab up and running. And I don't like teaching, so I knew I didn't want to do teaching. I wanted to do research. So at that point, after 6 years in Dundee, it became clear that I needed to move. probably outside of UK, because I don't think that moving within UK would have changed much. And it was again, do you continue in academia or do you go to industry? At that exact point 2 years ago, I was very frustrated with academia, because I think that as a lab, we did fairly okay. And it was difficult to find fundings, but also very difficult to publish papers these days. And there's a lot of politics involved. So I thought, okay, now is the perfect moment for me to try the other side of science, which is more applied science, industry, pharma. And that's how I started to think, okay, do I move into industry or not? So I had a contact within Boehringer, because we have a project together for a couple of years, and this person in Boehringer moved into the venture fund arm of Boehringer, which is called BIBF. And that person was looking to start a company in the thymus space, but that person was also interested in some of the technology that we developed during the 5 years or 6 years I was there. So I think that was a very nice symbiosis between the two things, and we started two companies together. One is TECregen, where I also joined as the CSO, and the other one is TECregen, which is in Lausanne, also in Switzerland, which is is more focused in the technology that I developed at Dundee.
Yeah.
And that's sort of been the sum up of my career. It's been moving from places to places, but always helped by people that I have met along the way. Yeah. My experience is when I have tried to reach out and apply for positions that were advertised in Nature or any other place, I have failed. Every place that I have gotten, every place that I have moved on, is been because someone knew someone, and I knew one of those two, and they put me in contact. Even the Stanford movement with the postdoc, I knew someone that was collaborating with Chris, and that person recommended me to Chris. So I think network is extremely important. Americans have it very clear, and they know how important it is from the very beginning. I think Europeans are not so aware. Maybe now in this age, they are a little bit more aware, but when I was starting, it was something that wasn't even in our radar. I mean, like networking, what is that? What do you do?
Absolutely. I'm very happy that you mentioned it, because it's basically what I advise, the people that I coach. Of course, they are looking for jobs in industry, but still networking, especially with early stage startups and biotech companies, is still the number one activity, let's say, strategy that works in order to get into this industry, and of course, in order to find new positions and to grow within this sector. And yes, I remember it very well, being the same in academia as well. Of course, it's a different network. You're building an academic network, of course, through the papers that you read and the collaboration that you start, and maybe your PIs that you mentioned, or someone that's working in a lab that's moving to a different group, and you will start building those connections that will open doors. Absolutely. I'm very curious about the fact that, of course, you mentioned something that I used to think as well, and I hear very often, which is, the great science is done in academia, really, right? If you go outside, you're kind of a failure. Like, you will feel it. They're doing like something more money-driven, maybe fundamental science that really happens in academia. I know now that that's not true, of course, but I appreciate the fact that you mentioned it, because it was your thought at the time. What changed, and how did you feel when you decided to go for this new opportunity?
Yeah, so it's always this. I mean, the older you get, the less serious you take things. I mean, you know what you are worth to some extent, and you know what you want to do. But yeah, I always feel like I didn't make it. No, there are many other people next to me. They are getting money, but we didn't get money. So the only person that you can fail is you, because you are the one that are driving the lab. You are deciding the projects, and you are deciding where the lab is going. But what I have found is, by talking with many other people, and you start to learn what is done in both sides of the balance in academia and in industry, and it's not that different. I mean, yeah, sure, the industry have an economic focus in place, but in academia we have a paper publishing focus. If you cannot publish it, you don't do it. It's that idea that academia has a freedom to do whatever you want to do, maybe 100 years ago, but right now the first thing that you think when you start a project is, where am I going to publish this?
Yeah.
Is it worth starting? So in industry, it's the same thing. Can I sell this if we are successful? So it's not the publishing, it's the selling, but you also have something that is grounding you and directing you in terms of where you are going to go. But once that you are in the place, industry of an academia, science is science. The bench is the bench and the experiments are the experiments. So in both places, you are trying to uncover new things, new biology, and the excitement of having an idea, developing the experiment to prove the idea, and proving the idea is in both places. So I think that great science is done in academia and great science is done in industry. And I think that in current days, we are seeing that more and more, even with the Nobel Prize recognition. I mean, the last 2 or 3 years, Nobel Prizes have gone to people that were outside of academia doing fantastic science, the T-Rex, the COVID vaccine, and so on. So I think that that's coming more into everybody's mind, that great discoveries and great science and great things are done in both sides of the coins. Of course, industry has to sell a product, so there is that under it. But in academia these days, you also have to sell a product, which is the paper that you are publishing. Otherwise, you cannot continue. So yeah, for those people out there that are thinking, I will be a failure because I'm leaving academia, I wouldn't take it like that these days. I would say that there is way more flexibility and fluidity between the two ecosystems that you used to have maybe 20, 30 years ago.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the Nobel Prizes, and that's very, it's a clear indication, a clear metric, I would say, that, great science can happen also outside academia. I'm curious, what does very early days actually felt for you, like when you started as a co-founder of a company, of course, doing science? How was that different from an academic setting?
So, I mean, the beginning was the founders got together, which I didn't know then. So it was me. It was someone that's called Philippe Oliveri, who was the one based in Switzerland and the one that has experience starting new companies. So he knew how to get foot on the ground, and after start getting lab space, getting equipment, getting all the paper ready to do what we needed to do. The other person is called George Hollander. He's a professor at Oxford and also here in Basel. And he was the one with the thymic expertise. So I was bringing the protein engineering expertise. He's the one that had the expertise about the thymus. So for the few first months, we were meeting a lot and discussing, okay, the thymus space, what is needed, what are the problems, how we can overcome these problems, how we can put a project together that is attractive and scientifically sound. So that was a lot of that. So that was great. That's like talking to friends and bringing a project to life. After that, what you do is you have to prepare what is called a pitch. So basically, it's a PowerPoint presentation when you present the problem, the necessity, how you're going to solve the problem, who is going to benefit from that problem, and what is the market if you manage to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Normally, you have a non-confidential deck that is called, and then you have a confidential deck. It's between 30 to 50 slides. And when you talk to VCs, you have anything between half an hour, 1 hour to pitch your idea to them and then get feedback from them. So trying to get money from VCs is a lot like trying to get grants in academia. Success rate is very, very, very low, maybe lower than getting grants in academia. I would say between 5 to 10%. Now a little bit worse because the situation is not very nice. It was a little bit better a few years back. The nice thing about pitching to VC is that it's worldwide. So you don't have to focus in the country where the company is going to be established. So you have many, 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 many more VCs that you can pitch, than grant agencies that you can apply. The other nice thing that I like it more than apply for grants is when you apply for a grant, you spend a couple of months writing the grant, you send it, it takes a year, and then either you get it or you get feedback of 1 page of what you didn't get it, which is not very helpful to fine-tune the grant. When you are pitching to VCs, it's a lot faster. No, you pitch to them, and either you hear from them 2 or 3 days later, or they ghost you, and you know that they weren't interested into into the company. So it's very stressful because it's in real time, and you have a time frame that you have to raise the money or not raise the money. You have a lot of people depending on you, but it's way quicker. And every time that you get a feedback, you can adapt the project. So you don't have to change the project. The project is the project. So if they tell you no, you just go to another VC, but you go with the same project. You try to improve it, basic feedback, and so on, but it's always the same idea. We are working on timers, so that we get the money for that. But what we are not going to do is, okay, we didn't get the money, now we are going to be working in Kindle.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I found that stressful, but exciting, and I welcome the dynamic of those relationships with VCs rather than what I was getting from a grant. So once that we got the money, we could start the company, we could start hiring people, and we are very, very early stage startup. So we are not a startup that have a product that is moving into the clinic. So we are a startup that didn't have a product. We just had an idea, which was, let's make ligands of drugs that regenerate the thymus. So for me, it was a great transition because it felt exactly like my lab felt in Dundee. Here is a group of people that like science a lot. This is a very cool idea that we have a lot of potential. Let's see whether we can make it a reality. So the day-to-day life of here at TECregen in the lab is very much like a PhD student would feel in his or her lab in academia. We are breaking new biology and discovering new things every day with the visions that we can regenerate thymus and induce healthy immune aging and restore immunity. But we still need to make the molecule. We need to prove that those molecules do what we think that they're going to do, do the in vitro, do the ex vivo, do the in vivo. And once that we have all that package, then okay, you go into the clinical development of the product, which is a completely different set of skills. But that will happen in like a year and a half. But for the time being, it's still a very academic lab in the sense that we are doing, state-of-the-art biology to discover these ligands that drive that biology that we're interested in.
And you mentioned the fact that, of course, interacting with investors and trying to get them to invest basically in your project may be similar to writing application for grants. Of course, in terms of how fast these connections and interactions move is completely different. But at the same time, when you are preparing a grant application, of course, you are addressing people that understand science very well, at least your sector. While with investors, sometimes, of course, you will have people that don't come necessarily from a scientific background, or in some cases, they come from science, but they move into commercial business, of course, come to settings. How would you approach those pitch? Knowing that you need to translate in a way your science for an audience that is not necessarily scientific trained, but also to highlight again the market opportunities, the competitors, what's your differentiator, for example?
Yeah, so for me, my mentors, both during the PhD and the postdoc, they were great in preparing people to present in front of an audience. And I think that's very important. So if you have a mentor that doesn't do that, I will try to find a different mentor, because you need to be able to present complex concepts to people. Even in the scientific space, not everybody is really an expert in the molecule and in the system that you're using. So you need to be able to communicate the idea in simple terms that everybody understands. So I think that for pitching VCs is the same concept. Less is more. So you don't have to put very heavy data set slides that are almost impossible to follow. It has to be clear, simple slides that convey what is the problem, why you think that the problem is relevant, how you are going to solve that problem, and what is the market space of the beneficiaries of the drug that you're going to generate. So that's what VCs care. Like, okay, it's an interesting question, sure. Who is going to buy into that interesting question? There is a finance advantage there. So those two things need to come very clear from your pitch. what you shouldn't do is start making very heavy data-heavy slides with a lot of data that they are going to get lost and so on. I think if you have very simple, clear, to the point slides, then you can introduce all the data in what is called data room, where they can go, take their time and digest everything slowly, and they will ask for questions, and then you answer those questions and so on. But in the 30-minute pitch that you have is what is the problem, why you think it's important, how you are going to fix it, and what is the market that you're addressing with that problem. Those 4 concepts should be crystal clear in your pitch.
The project progress, you may find that some of those initial connections may come back and be interested in where the project is going, because it's always a matter of timing and alignment with our investment strategy.
Yeah, so investors, you have to hit the right time, the right moment with the right data package. Some investors are more risk averse, so they want preclinical in vivo proof that your molecule are working. Some others are more company creation, so they are okay with you starting from scratch. It's finding the right balance, having a lot of patience. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of time. You have to talk to a lot of people, and you have to hear a lot of rejections. You just keep grinding, keep continuing, fine-tuning your presentation, fine-tuning the answers that you give to questions. I think that in academia, we have a tendency to over-answer questions, that keep talking and talking and talking and talking, because we feel that we don't talk enough, we don't come out like smart or intelligent. I think that when you're talking to VC, answer has to be short and clear, the same as your presentation. So learning that is also a process. Like, don't answer more than what they're asking. Listen carefully to the question, understand why they're asking that question, and then provide an answer that answers the question and the thoughts that they have behind the question. And that is like everything in life. You do it, and you keep doing it, and you learn from doing, and eventually you get better, and you do it better. But it's patient. It's not going to be. It's very rare that you pitch to the first investor and the investor give you 20 million for you to do your thing. So you have to be resilient, and you have to keep going until you find the right set of investors that agree with you, share your vision, and will give you the money to develop it.
And in the past couple of years since you started, of course, you probably had to hire someone. I mean, in terms of scientists maybe working in the lab for you. Was that different from hiring people, for example, as PhD in your research group when you were still in academia?
So I have always followed the thumb rule of culture is more important than skill. So I always try to hire people that I think will fit in the culture. Of course, they have to have, the right skill of being able to learn the skill that you are needed, but they have to be nice people. I'm too old to deal with people that are not nice. And a very skillful person that have a bad attitude can completely destroy the environment. So we have always tried to hire people that fit in with the way that we think and the vision that we have at the company. And we have tried to hit the right balance from people that is coming from academia, because they are motivated, they're willing to learn, and you can save them in the way that you think it should happen, with people with either be more experience in industry, because they have some skill sets of how to write protocols, how to archive data, how to organize labs. That are very important from a startup point of view, because that is very different between academia and industry. In industry, everything needs to be recorded, everything needs to be archived and well organized, because if the company have an exit, then audits will come and will check every single thing. And I don't think that academia has the same level of due diligence that you see in industry. So you cannot have everybody naive industry, because they won't be able to do that. You need to have a right balance of people. But for us, not having industry experience wasn't a deal breaker. Actually, the first 2 people that joined the company, or the first 3 people that joined the company, they have more of an academic background, because they have the famous expertise. So they were coming from the lab of George Hollander. And another person had the protein biophysics expertise, was also coming from academia. The last 2 recruits, we tried to hire someone with a little bit more industry experience, just to set the right culture and environment in the company, because as the company moves forward into the clinical development, you start needing this type of people that can take you that extra step. But yeah, all in all, I need to like the person, and then which skill this person has and how he or she can contribute to industry. But I did the same thing when I was in the league with my lab. Like, okay, do I like this person? Can this person learn the skills? Probably. This is no quantum physics. In biology, anybody can learn anything. So it's fitting right in and make sure that person is hardworking, is motivated, and can adjust to the culture in the company or in the lab.
Absolutely. Did you find that motivating the people coming straight from academia or those that you hired coming from industry was different? What was your strategy in basically making sure that the motivation was high across the entire team?
So we've been very lucky. I think that everybody's been really, really highly motivated from the very beginning. They understood the concept, they liked the concept and the vision, so they bought right in from day zero, from day one. And everybody's been working together towards the same goal, which is developing these ligands that will regenerate the thymus. I think that one of the reasons that maybe industry people don't like to hire so much academic is in industry, it's more a collaboration environment. There are no well-defined projects that every person has. And that's what academic people are expecting in the beginning, I would say. Like, in your PhD or in your postdoc, you have a project and you do everything about that project. In industry, everybody shares the same project and they collaborate and contribute to the advancement of the same project. So there is not that sense of ownership that you may have. This is mine, don't dare to touch it. Here we all do something a little bit to make sure that the project can advance as quickly and as well as possible. And that's some adjustment. But again, the people that we hire from academia, they adjust right very quickly. They didn't have any problem whatsoever. But depending on who is coming from academia, I could see that a little bit of a shock.
They may have assumptions. Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that maybe surprised you or you found harder than expected once you started your company?
Not top of my head. Like I said, for me it was a weird thing because we didn't have to dive right into regulatory and CROs and paperwork, which is a little bit more like difficult to deal with. It was right science. So for me it was a little bit of relief because you have way more flexibility and freedom than in academia. When you are in a university, you are under a university framework. So that means that you can only order from vendors and things that under the university framework. So you need to ask for 15 quotes to go with the one that you want. So things can take, up to 6-7 months until you get a piece of equipment that you desperately need. Here in the startup, you just do whatever it takes to get the equipment. If that means driving 2 hours to the middle of the mountain to buy this second-hand piece of equipment because it's way cheaper, you do it. So I enjoyed that sort of maverick type approach from a startup. The money is tight, so you have to use it very smartly, and you do whatever it takes to get what you need and move ahead. The thing is a little bit more of the other side. I think that's a little bit different for me. When something that I like a lot from academia was you get your grant, and then for 5 years you can do whatever the heck you want. You can do what the grant said that you were going to do, but you can do also something completely different. No one is going to challenge you. No one is going to tell you something. In industry, you have a series of people, obviously, that they have put their money, quite a bit of money. So they want to make sure that the money is spent in where they put the money. So there is a little bit more oversight. You have more board meetings, you have more report that you have to write and send. And that, takes some getting used to, but I don't see it as a very, very, very problem or discomfort. I still enjoy what we're doing.
And you mentioned the fact that you're still in preclinical development, still a little bit far from the clinic. What are the next steps for your project?
Yeah, so right now we have identified a few molecules that look very, very promising. And 2026 is going to be the preclinical validation of these molecules. So we are running a series of in vivo mouse studies to prove proof of concept that our molecule regenerates the thymus and improve the health of the peripheral immune system. So that will happen in 2026. In 2027, we will continue with a preclinical package, trying to find disease-relevant mouse models that we can test. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, we will start getting more towards the clinic, what is actual development of the molecules for the clinic. So you start with CMC, regulatory, and IND applications. And also you need money to do all that because that's very expensive. So we will start raising the Series A probably at the end of 2026, beginning of 2027.
And of course, you are in Basel, and Switzerland is an amazing ecosystem, especially Basel, in terms of startups, also pharma companies. Everyone is there. Did you find any support or help from being in such a vibrant ecosystem?
Yeah, so Basel is a great environment for startups and for pharma overall. I mean, I think it's the only city where I have lived that you just walk on the street and you start seeing Novartis, Roche, Lonza, J&J, and many other. And probably, like 1 in 5 or 2 in 5 people that you meet in the street is working at pharma.
Yes.
So it's very easy to be in a bar, in a table with 10 people, and start talking about your project, and most of those people are going to understand what you are actually talking, which I don't think that happens in many other places beyond maybe the Bay Area and Boston. So that's a fantastic environment. There is a lot of skilled people working in this area. So finding good people to work at the company is also easier than in other places. And of course, the networking that you can do here, the people that you can meet, is much better than what you could do in other places. So I think, you need to be in a place, I would say, Basel, Boston, San Francisco, they are fantastic places to start your company. Oxford is not bad either. But beyond that, there are not that many other places that are hubs so strong as Basel and
such a high San
Francisco.
Drug development companies, absolutely. Very last question for you, Ignacio. And of course, my audience is composed of PhD and postdocs, and it would be great to hear your perspective of moving into biotech at this time and age, or even starting something themselves. Like, what kind of advice would you give them?
So just like I said, don't try to apply for jobs that you find in LinkedIn. If you want to move into biotech, I go to LinkedIn, try to find people working in places that you think could be interesting, maybe send an email or a message in LinkedIn. Doesn't mean that everybody's going to answer, but quite a few people will do. I mean, I think overall in science, people are very nice and they know how difficult it is. So everybody's willing to help. What I wouldn't do, and that has happened to me sometimes, is that someone sent me a message, I agree to meet with that person and talk to that person, but then that person expect me to carry the load of the conversation. Maybe they have one question that is very general. I answer that question in 2 minutes, and then they don't know what to ask and what to do, and the chat ends after 5 minutes in a very awkward way.
Yes.
So, do your homework a little bit. You reach out to someone, read about the company, understand what the person is doing, learn a little bit about the person, so you can drive a conversation for half an hour, 1 hour, and the person leave that chat having a good opinion of you. So don't be lazy. Do your homework. Don't be lazy, and do cold calls, because otherwise it's very currently. Big pharma has laid off a lot of people, so the market is very, very difficult and very, very challenging. Or if you want to start your own thing, if you say you have an idea, you think it's great, and it could be a way to start your own company. Universities have very good technology transfer office, so I would start there because they know the people, they are in contact with VCs, and they can point you into the right direction and and talk with the right people. And anyway, you are in the university, the idea belongs to the university, you have to get them involved. You're like an independent individual reaching now to a VC via their website. It's not going to work very well because this guy gets thousands of emails every day. So again, networking, either via the university or reaching out to LinkedIn to someone that you think could be beneficial, and just patient. It will take time, But it happens. It's not a miracle. There are many people doing it. So if they do it, you can do it. So just be patient, be resilient, talk to people, discuss your idea with people so you can shape it in the right format. Do courses. There are plenty of entrepreneur courses that teach you how to do all these things, which are very good. And don't be afraid. Just jump in and give it a go.
Yeah, it takes time, but no, I'm very happy because we are very well aligned in terms of the advice for people that are looking for this transition. Ignacio, thank you so much for your time. It's been, I think, an incredible contribution. Thank you again, and best of luck with your project.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I really enjoyed the time.